The Krell armada hung in orbit above the third planet, like a crown of thorns. 700 warships arrayed in perfect attack formation. Fleet Commander Zha'thok stood on the bridge of the flagship Inevitable Conquest, his 6 eyes scanning the blue-green world below with satisfaction. This would be his greatest victory, humanity's homeworld, ripe for the taking. "All batteries charged, Commander," his weapons officer reported, mandibles clicking with anticipation. "Planetary shields are pathetic. We could break them in under an hour." Zha'thok's dorsal spines rippled with pleasure. The humans had been a nuisance for decades, their merchant vessels clogging trade routes, their annoying adherence to every obscure regulation, slowing commerce across 3 sectors. But they had no real military to speak of. Intelligence reports showed a scattered defense fleet, outdated weapons, nothing that could stand against the might of the Krell Empire. "Open a channel," Zha'thok commanded. "Let us offer them the courtesy of surrender before we reduce their cities to ash." The viewscreen flickered to life, showing a plain room with beige walls and a single human sitting at a desk. The human was unremarkable, middle-aged by their standards, wearing what Zha'thok's cultural database identified as formal business attire. A small nameplate on the desk read, "Jennifer Kowalski, Director of Extraterrestrial Compliance." Zha'thok drew himself up to his full height. "I am Fleet, Commander Zha'thok of the Krell Empire. You will surrender your world immediately, or face total annihilation. You have 1 of your standard hours to respond." The human woman smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Good morning, Fleet Commander. Thank you for contacting the Office of Extraterrestrial Compliance. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding." Zha'thok's spines flattened against his back. "Misunderstanding? There is no misunderstanding. Surrender or die." "Oh, I understand your intent perfectly," Jennifer Kowalski said, her voice maintaining an unsettling calm. "However, I must inform you that your current military action violates Galactic Code, Section 404, Subsection 3, Paragraph 12. Specifically, you have failed to file the required Planetary Acquisition Form in triplicate with the Galactic Administrative Council prior to initiating hostile action." There was a long silence on the bridge of the Inevitable Conquest. "What?" Zha'thok finally managed. The human woman tapped something on a device in front of her. "The Krell Empire, as a signatory to the Treaty of Andromeda, agreed to abide by all galactic administrative codes. Section 404 is quite clear. Any military action intended to result in the acquisition of a planet, its resources, or its population, must be preceded by proper documentation, filed no less than 60 standard days before the commencement of hostilities." "This is absurd," Zha'thok hissed. "We are the Krell Empire. We do not file paperwork." "Then I'm afraid you're in violation of galactic tax law as well," Jennifer said, pulling out a physical folder. It was disturbingly thick. "You see, undocumented planetary acquisitions are classified as unreported income under Section 1099P. Given the estimated value of Earth and its resources, the penalties for tax evasion of this magnitude are quite severe." Zha'thok turned to his administrative officer, a nervous Krell named Vexnor who handled the fleet's logistics. "Is she serious? Is this real?" Vexnor's mandibles trembled as he accessed the galactic legal database. His eyes widened, then widened further, then began to leak a clear fluid that indicated extreme stress. "Commander, the codes exist. They were part of the treaty we signed 18 cycles ago. I thought they were just formalities. No one actually enforces them." "We do," Jennifer said pleasantly. "I've already filed a formal complaint with the Galactic Administrative Council. I took the liberty of copying all relevant parties. That includes the Galactic Revenue Service." "The GRS?" Vexnor made a sound like a dying turbine. What is the GRS? Zha'thok demanded. The Galactic Revenue Service, Commander. They handle tax collection and compliance for all member species. Vexnor's voice had become very small. They have authority that supersedes military jurisdiction. Jennifer's smile widened slightly. I see your administrative officer is familiar with proper procedure. That's excellent. It will make this process much smoother. There will be no process, Zha'thok roared. I will reduce your planet to cinders. I wouldn't recommend that, Commander. You see, I've also filed an emergency injunction under Galactic Code, Section 817. Any military action you take from this point forward will constitute willful destruction of evidence in an ongoing tax investigation. That carries a mandatory minimum sentence of 400 standard years in a galactic detention facility. Zha'thok felt his primary hearts beginning to race. You cannot be serious. I'm always serious about proper documentation, Commander. Now, I've prepared a list of forms you'll need to file. Let me transmit them to your vessel. A data packet arrived. Vexnor opened it and immediately made a sound that no Krell should ever make. A sort of whimpering keen. 3,000 forms, Vexnor whispered. 3,047, actually, Jennifer corrected. The first batch must be completed within 10 standard days, or additional late filing penalties will accrue. I should mention that those penalties compound daily at a rate of 8%. Zha'thok stared at the view screen. This had to be a trick, a delaying tactic. We will simply leave. Withdraw from your system. You cannot stop us. Actually, Commander, I already have. The Galactic Revenue Service has, as of 8 minutes ago, frozen all Krell Empire financial accounts pending resolution of this tax matter. That includes your fleet's operational budget. The bridge went very quiet. What does that mean? Zha'thok asked slowly. Vexnor checked his systems, his color draining from deep violet to a sickly grey. Commander, I'm showing zero balance in our fuel allocation account, zero balance in our supply account, zero balance in our everything account. That's impossible. We have 3 trillion credits in reserve. You had 3 trillion credits, Jennifer said. They're currently in an escrow account managed by the GRS. They'll remain there until this matter is resolved. I estimate the process will take somewhere between 18 and 24 months, assuming you file all paperwork correctly the first time. We have fuel for 2 weeks, Vexnor said, panic evident in his voice. Maybe 3 if we go to minimum life support. Zha'thok felt reality tilting around him. This couldn't be happening. They were a warrior race. They had conquered 40 systems. They didn't lose to paperwork. This is blackmail, he said. This is compliance enforcement, Jennifer replied. There's a significant difference, legally speaking. Now I'm willing to help you through this process, Commander. Earth specializes in administrative systems. We have extensive experience with bureaucratic procedures. Why would you help us? Zha'thok asked, suspiciously. Because completed paperwork benefits everyone, Commander. Besides, there are fees for assistance with form preparation. Very reasonable fees. My office can provide you with a detailed cost breakdown. Another data packet arrived. Vexnor opened it and made that sound again. These fees total more than our entire fleet budget, he whispered. Payment plans are available, Jennifer said, at standard interest rates, of course. Zha'thok slumped into his command chair. He had faced enemy fleets, navigated asteroid fields, survived 3 assassination attempts by his own second-in-command. But this human woman and her forms were breaking him in ways that combat never could. What if we just fight our way out? He asked weakly. Retreat to Krell space? Without fuel, you'd drift for approximately 40 years before reaching the nearest refueling station. Also, fleeing a GRS investigation triggers an automatic warrant for your arrest. Every port in galactic space would be obligated to detain you. Jennifer paused. Though I suppose you could try claiming asylum somewhere. I have the forms for that as well, if you'd like. How many forms? For asylum, only 263, but they reference 17 different treaties, so you'll need to familiarize yourself with approximately 4,000 pages of legal text. Zha'thok closed all 6 eyes. How did it come to this? Poor planning, mostly, Jennifer said. If you'd filed the Planetary Acquisition Form 60 days ago, you'd only be facing the standard acquisition taxes. Those are quite reasonable, only 45% of estimated planetary value. But with the late filing penalties, evasion charges, and accrued interest, I'm afraid you're looking at something closer to 98%. 98% of Earth's value? Plus administrative fees, yes. That's everything. That's more than everything. Well, you could always contest the valuation. We have forms for that too. The appeals process typically takes 3 to 5 years. Zha'thok's second-in-command, a scarred veteran named Krell, leaned close. Commander, permission to speak? Granted. We should just kill her and bombard the planet. Krell, that's... I know. The legal consequences. But Commander, we're warriors. We don't surrender to forms. Jennifer's voice cut through their whispered conversation. I should mention, Commander, that I'm recording this conversation for quality assurance purposes. Any threats of violence will constitute additional charges under Section 1287, Intimidation of Galactic Revenue Service. Cooperating witnesses. That's another 200 years, minimum. Krell's mandibles snapped shut so hard they cracked. Miss Kowalski, Zha'thok said carefully, surely we can come to some arrangement. Of course, Commander. That's what I've been trying to facilitate. If you begin the documentation process immediately and maintain full cooperation, the GRS may be willing to reduce some of the penalties. Not all of them, you understand, but some. How much reduction? Hard to say. Depends on the quality of your paperwork and your payment history. Could be as much as 15%. 15%? That's nothing. It's better than nothing, Commander. And it's certainly better than spending the next 4 centuries in a detention facility. Zha'thok felt his spines droop completely flat against his back, a posture of utter defeat that no Krell commander should ever display. What do we have to do? Well, first you'll need to fill out Form GC-404A, Declaration of Intent to Acquire Planetary Assets. That's the retroactive filing, which does incur the late penalty, but it starts the process. Then you'll need Form G, C404B, Detailed Asset Inventory of Target Planet. That one's quite involved. You'll need to list every resource, population center, and industrial facility. I estimate it will take your administrative staff about 6 weeks to complete properly. 6 weeks? If they work efficiently, yes. Then there's Form GC-1099P, Declaration of Unreported Potential Income, Form GC-1099PA, Amended Declaration. Following discovery by authorities, Form GSE 7332, Request for Penalty Reduction, based on cooperative behavior, Form... She continued listing forms. Vexnor dutifully recorded each one, his entire body trembling. And if we complete all these forms, Zha'thok asked when she finally paused, then we move to Phase 2, the payment plans. Phase 2? Commander, did you think it was just forms? You've attempted to acquire a Class 4 inhabited world without proper authorization. Even with the reduced penalties, you're looking at a debt of approximately 2 trillion credits to be paid over a period of no less than 30 standard years. The bridge was silent except for the low hum of the ship's systems and Vexnor's quiet sobbing. We'll be making payments for 3 decades, Zha'thok asked numbly. If you maintain the minimum payment schedule, yes. Of course, you can always pay more to reduce the term. We accept all major galactic currencies. Krothar leaned in again. Commander, the Empire will never accept this. They'll disavow us. We'll be exiled. He was right, of course. The Krell Empire didn't tolerate failure, especially failure this yet humiliating. They would be stripped of rank, their names erased from the military records, their families shamed. Unless… Ms. Kowalski, Zha'thok said slowly, what if we didn't return to the Empire? I'm sorry? What if we renounced our citizenship in the Krell Empire and sought employment elsewhere? Jennifer's expression didn't change, but Zha'thok got the distinct impression she'd been waiting for this. That would be a significant life change, Commander. Do you have any particular employment in mind? I have 700 warships and crews trained in military operations, logistics, and administration. Surely that has value. Potentially, yes, though I should mention that military vessels registered to an entity under GRS investigation cannot be legally operated until the investigation concludes. Of course they can't, Zha'thok muttered. However, if those vessels were to be transferred to new ownership as part of a debt settlement agreement, that might be different. Zha'thok's eyes narrowed. All 6 of them. What are you suggesting? Well, Commander, Earth has recently established a new initiative called the Solar Defense Contractor Program. We're looking for experienced security personnel to help protect shipping lanes in the outer solar system. Pirates have been a problem. You want us to work for you? I want you to work for legitimate compensation while resolving your debt to the Galactic Revenue Service. The program offers competitive wages, and a significant portion of your earnings would go directly toward paying down your debt. We estimate you could be debt-free in approximately 15 years instead of 30. And our ships would be leased back to you as part of the employment contract. We'd cover fuel, maintenance, and operational costs, all completely legal and properly documented, naturally. Zha'thok looked around his bridge. His crew looked back at him with expressions ranging from despair to desperate hope. They were warriors, yes, but they were also practical. 15 years of honorable employment was better than 30 years of crushing debt or 400 years in a detention facility. What would we be fighting? He asked. Pirates mostly, some smugglers, the occasional territorial dispute with aggressive mining operations. Nothing too challenging for warriors of your caliber. And if we refuse? Jennifer's smile didn't waver. Then you'll remain in orbit here until your fuel runs out, at which point Earth will be legally obligated to provide humanitarian assistance. We'll tow your ships to a secure orbital facility, process your crew as refugees, and begin the very long, very expensive process of liquidating your assets to pay your debts. I have forms for that scenario as well, if you'd like to see them. How many forms? 4,322? Zha'thok made his decision. We accept your employment offer. Excellent. I'll need you to fill out Form S, D1. Application for Solar Defense Contractor Status, Form SD2, Background Check Authorization, Form SD3, Asset Declaration for New Employees, Form… She kept talking. Vexnor kept recording. Krothar kept glaring at the view screen with impotent rage. And Zha'thok, fleet commander of what had been the pride of the Krell Empire, began to understand a fundamental truth about humanity that every other species in the galaxy had somehow missed. Humans didn't need massive fleets or planet-killing weapons. They didn't need telepathy or superior technology. They had something far more terrifying. They had created a system so complex, so all-encompassing, so absolutely impossible to navigate without their help, that resistance wasn't just futile. It was paperwork. 3 months later, the inevitable Conquest and her sister ships were making regular patrols through the outer solar system, their crews now officially registered as Solar Defense Contractors. They'd successfully repelled 2 pirate raids and escorted 43 merchant convoys. Vexnor had been promoted to Chief Administrative Officer of the fleet and was teaching a course on Galactic Tax Code compliance to new recruits. Krotha had been forced to attend a 3-week seminar on proper use of force documentation. Zha'thok sat in his office, reviewing the latest round of performance evaluations. Jennifer Kowalski appeared on his screen for their weekly compliance check-in. "Good afternoon, Commander. I trust the new requisition forms are working out." "They're functional," Zha'thok admitted, "though I still don't understand why we need separate forms for laser battery maintenance and missile system maintenance." "Different budget categories, Commander. It's all explained in the Contractor Handbook, Section 12. Section 12 is 400 pages long. 396, actually. But yes, it's quite comprehensive." She glanced at something off-screen. "I see you've submitted your quarterly tax withholding forms on time. Excellent work." "Thank you." The words felt strange in Zha'thok's mouth, but no stranger than anything else about his new existence. "I also wanted to let you know that we've received your application for permanent residency on behalf of your crew. It's being processed now." "How long will that take?" 6 to 8 months, assuming no complications. You'll need to complete the cultural integration course and pass the citizenship exam, of course." "Of course," Zha'thok said wearily. "Oh, and Commander, I've been reviewing your fleet's performance metrics. You're exceeding expectations by a significant margin. If you maintain this level of efficiency, we may be able to reduce your debt repayment timeline by another 2 years. Despite himself, Zha'thok felt his spines lift slightly. "Really? Really? Good work, Commander. Same time next week?" "Same time next week." The screen went dark. Zha'thok leaned back in his chair and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Krell Empire continued its conquests, still fighting wars the old-fashioned way, with weapons and blood and glory. And here he was, filing paperwork. But he had to admit, grudgingly, that there was a certain elegance to it. The humans hadn't fired a single shot. They hadn't needed to. They'd simply enforced the rules that everyone else had agreed to but never bothered to read. His console chimed. Another form needed his approval. Form S.D. 447B, Weekly Combat Readiness Report. He pulled it up, reviewed it, added his signature, and filed it properly. And Zha'thok, warrior of the Krell Empire, smiled. Not because he was happy, but because he understood. The humans hadn't conquered them. They'd done something far worse. They'd made them compliant. And in its own terrible way, that was the most complete victory imaginable.
Claim your seat at the apex.